Welcome back to Those Astrology Girls. Today we are bringing to you guys a really special and very juicy episode. We are breaking free a little bit from the world of astrology and moving into this really fun, really exciting, again, really juicy world of gene keys. If you've never heard of gene keys, it really is this system that takes some of astrology, which we go into today, and helps you explore yourself in a really new kind of way. So we bring in special guest Ellisa McCoy to talk all about the gene keys. She is somebody who has been in my world for a long time, and she is just the most incredible expert on gene keys. And we're just going to dive into it today, you guys, because there's so much for us to learn, and we're just really excited to introduce you guys to this episode.
Yeah, so Ellisa is a certified spiritual life coach, gene keys expert, and Akashic Records practitioner with a grounded and relatable approach to personal growth. Ellisa helps lightworkers, healers, and coaches move through feelings of inadequacy, confusion into clarity, confidence, and purpose. Through her signature blend of subconscious healing, energy work, and soulful strategy, she supports her clients in unlocking their gifts, living their truth, and building lives and businesses rooted in authenticity.
So grab a beverage, cozy on up, and let's dive in to this really great conversation with Ellisa McCoy.
Welcome to Those Astrology Girls, Ellisa. We're so glad to have you.
Hello.
So today we're so excited to have this conversation. Those Astrology Girls meets Gene Keys. So Ellisa, you are technically our second guest, but our first non-host guest on the podcast. And we couldn't think of anyone better to introduce the topic of gene keys to Those Astrology Girls listeners. So why don't you go ahead and get us started? Let us know a little bit about who you are and what you do and why you love gene keys.
Yes, thank you guys so much for having me. It's such an honor. I'm obsessed with both of you guys individually and together with this podcast that you guys have. So yeah, I'm so excited to be here. So yeah, I am Ellisa. I am a soul purpose and life coach, and I really help coaches, healers, and guides really tune back into their soul codes to just unlock this like deep inner confidence to live their purpose and live their life's work. And I have been obsessed with human design, and that's really kind of where I started, was with human design. And then when I found the gene keys, I feel like it completely opened up like this whole other world to me. And I really feel like it's like a soul resonance. Like I understand the language, which when you first kind of look at the gene keys, it can be very overwhelming, which I'll get into, but it's actually so freaking simple when you understand like what it does for us. And it has just completely transformed my business. Being a spiritual entrepreneur, I think a lot of us can relate to this on the entrepreneurial path, that it can be very challenging, like when you're first starting your business, right? Like so many things come up on the journey. And so I feel like just having this like knowledge of the gene keys and like knowing what my specific shadows are and like how to move through them is just such a practical and tangible tool that has like completely changed my life. So
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love the gene keys, and I love what you said about the fact that like the language speaks to you. And I was just thinking we should ask you your big three, because like, why does the language speak to you? So share with us.
Yes. Do you know?
Yeah, okay, I love that. And I love that you guys are like the astrology girls, because I'm going to kind of talk about how astrology ties into the gene keys, but you're definitely like the astrology experts. But I'm a Capricorn sun, a Virgo rising, and a Taurus moon. So very earth, all earth, the big three. So like
Virgo
a very
rising
practical.
twins.
Yeah. So just like a very practical person. And I feel like what I love about the gene keys is it's so freaking grounding. Like as spiritual people, we can spend a lot of time like in our upper chakras and be like dreaming about things and having all of these ideas. But I really feel like I bring this kind of like grounded, like practicalness to business and to spirituality, which is really fun.
Yeah, gene keys is something that has always fascinated me. I mean, being in the human design world, like I've kind of played with gene keys a little bit, but it really does feel like this really grounded way of understanding like so many different parts of ourselves in like such an interesting way. And I really love the gene keys too, in the way that it's kind of this pathway, which I know we'll kind of talk about a little bit more, more tangibly about how we can use it and what it actually means for us. But it really does provide us with these like pathways, right? That help us understand and just deepen into who we are, which those astrology girls, we love to learn about ourselves. We love to just really explore and go on this inward exploration with ourselves. But like, how would you say, knowing what you kind of know about astrology, about your sun, moon, and rising, like, what do you feel like Gene Keys has to offer that's different than maybe what astrology has to offer us?
Yes. Okay. I love that question. So I like to say, and I'm sure a lot of girlies listening love human design. And so, like probably a bit about human design. And so I like to say that human design really shows us this, our body graph shows us how our energy works, right? Like it's very body based, which is so incredible. And it shows us how to like make aligned decisions and move through the world and like what our type is. And so it gives us this like really cool foundation to understand how our energy works. And then the gene keys comes in and it really tells us like very specific themes of life, like kind of like what our hero's journey is in this lifetime. And so the founder, Richard Rudd, he's actually still alive and like a brilliant, brilliant human. And he actually studied under Ra. And he actually started his own human design school like a while back in, I believe in like the UK. What he discovered through teaching human design was that he really was fascinated with the gates. And he was like, okay, I feel like some of the gates have like a very positive expression. And then for some reason, some of the gates seem to have like more challenges than others. And he's like, really, I feel like all of the gates should actually have like, it makes sense that they would all kind of have like a shadow or like kind of like a challenge or like a victim theme and then also this like higher expression. And so he kind of like took that transmission of human design and this like through the 64 the 64 gates in human design come from the Chinese I Ching. And so he took those and then he basically created for each gene key a shadow, a gift, and a city. And so it's really like it's a little to make it kind of practical, think about it as like a frequency band. And so if you ever have saw like if you ever looked at a chart of like consciousness or like emotions, right? We have like lower vibrational emotions and then we kind of move up and we get to these like higher states of like consciousness. So that's kind of how like a singular gene key works is like it's going to have a shadow which is going to be like victim consciousness. It's always rooted back in fear. Like we can take any shadow and distill it down to like a basic core human fear. And also to reverse a little bit, the 64 archetypes come from the Chinese I Ching and these really describe like archetypes of human behavior and change. And this has been around for thousands and thousands of years old. People have used that divination system to really like understand people and like our lives better. And so in each gene key, there's a shadow expression, which is like the shadow, so like victim consciousness. And then we can actually move up into the gift expression, which is always rooted in like love and service. And so it's really cool because it gives us this practical way to be like, okay, I'm feeling like kind of victimy and this very specific theme of life. And I realized that just through awareness, patience, gentleness, I can actually open my heart and step into this like gift frequency and completely raise my vibrational frequency. And since like we're all energy, when we're coming from a place in business from like this like higher frequency energy, that's kind of when we become a match to like our fractal line, our clients, the people who are meant to work with us. And then each gene key also has a city, which is SIDDHI, and that's like the highest frequency. And so that's very like mystical. It's very hard to describe. We wouldn't spend a lot of time in that energy because we kind of would be like, not incarnated anymore. It's kind of like we're like oneness, like one consciousness. And so we will experience that like from time to time through meditation or just like living your life's work. And you just got off like the most insane client call. You feel so lit up and like you might feel that city of like your life's work and just feel so happy and like grateful that like you're living your purpose. And so that's kind of when we feel those higher frequencies, but we really kind of want to shoot for like this like middle path, which is just like living in our gift of service.
Oh my gosh. Okay, as you were saying, sometimes you can reach that city frequency when you're in meditation. I was like, okay, well, I totally reached my city today because I went really deep into breathwork and meditation and was so connected to a higher frequency. But how cool that I can
Hmm.
kind of align that to just like the Gene Keys city high frequency state. But as you were talking, I was kind of having this visual and just to kind of the way that I was like viewing this and really connecting it to astrology was I was like, okay, us astrology girls, we're all kind of aware, like, we've all got these planetary aspects of ourselves that are located in these signs, right? I love taking that, and if you want to go a layer deeper with that, then it's like, okay, what specific gate in that sign, that's like that connection to human design. And so usually, for example, your sun sign, there's what, like 6 gates per every sign. And so within, whatever, for example, I'm an Aquarius sun, but like my sun in Aquarius is in gate 30, right? Well, then taking that, I can know gate 30 in human design, but with gene keys, you're going a level deeper. And it's almost like with gene keys, like you said, we're exploring now the frequency that, like, Nicole and I have talked about this a little bit of like, here's the low frequency and the high frequency of each sign, but like take that a layer deeper. And like me as this gate 30, Aquarius energy, which in gene keys translates to even something else of, I think it was like the shadow is desire, and then the gift is lightness or something like that. But even connecting to those frequencies, I can better understand how me as this Aquarius sun, like the shadow frequency I can be in, and also the gift frequency. And then of course the city, which is such a beautiful, I don't even know what that is, but like, wow, it's just such a cool way of like deepening into this frequency understanding of ourselves.
Yes, exactly. And it's literally what you just said. That was like such a great like way to like show how it's related to astrology is like every gene key that we like look at, which I can break down the kind of different pathways, is related to a planetary placement. So just like you said, so like your sun is in Aquarius, so that would be your conscious sun would be your life's work in the gene keys, which makes up 70% of your personality. This is what you're here to do in this lifetime. It's very masculine energy. It's the sun. It's the way that people see you, right? And so that's like when you're thinking about like your business, you can really think about, okay, like what am I here to do? What am I here to really like work on? And it can be in all parts of your life as well, but see how that's very different than your purpose, where your purpose is who you're here to be. And it's like the texture of your consciousness. And so it's like a different contemplation. But yeah, I love that so much. I pulled it up right here because I have undefined Ajna. So I'm like, I can't remember like facts, but I'm like, oh, I have Gene Key 30. So yeah, the shadow is desire, the gift is lightness, and the city is rapture. And so like when you contemplate that, you're like, okay, this is Aquarius energy. This is it. You can even think about like what house is it in, right? Which gives you a whole other like perspective. And then you kind of see how it like goes into your life's work, which is just so cool.
That's so cool. Yeah, I love the planetary placement aspect of it too, because it really does layer all of this together in such a beautiful way. And so if you're thinking like, okay, you've heard us say human design, astrology, gene keys, but gene keys, while it's relatively new, is based on those 64 archetypes of the I Ching that has been an ancient system. Astrology, also ancient. So if we think about the new person to the playground here, it's really human design. And just think of all of these layers coming together and uncovering new things for us to explore and work with. But what I love about gene keys is how poetic it is. And this hero's journey is just naturally poetic. And you were mentioning these sequences or these journeys that we go on. And I'm curious, like, if someone's like wondering, like, where do I begin? Like, what would you suggest?
Yeah, I love that. So I would recommend going to genekeys.com to first of all pull up your free hologenetic profile. And when you look at it, do not freak out because it's going to seem like very complicated, but I want to just give you like a very like brief rundown to understand kind of like how to like traverse it. So it's actually like very easy. So there you get this hologenetic profile, and it is really again like this map of your hero's journey. And so every single gene key, the sphere, is really teaching us like a theme of life that we're going to contemplate, because like the human experience, even though yeah, we're all very individualized, the human experience itself and like the soul experience is very similar. We all go through three like very same pathways. And so it's really called the golden pathway if you look at your entire chart. But the first place to really start is called the genius or the activation sequence. And that's when you go through and you unlock your 4 prime gifts. So you really learn like, okay, what is my life's work? What am I here to do in this lifetime? And then you unlock your evolution, which is like the biggest soul lesson that your soul is here to learn in this lifetime. And what is really cool about this that I actually want to pause on to like bring you guys in for like the astrology side of this is like when we're going through the first sequence, the first 2 pairs are actually called programming partners. And so they're the exact opposites on the zodiac wheel. So like my conscious sun is Gene Key 54, it's Capricorn, but then my evolution, the biggest soul lesson that I'm here to learn is Cancer. And so what happens is like, okay, I'm out here living my life's work, like, feeling so lit up, and then boom, I'm going to be brought right back down to earth from this like opposing energy that can either kind of like loop on the shadows where it kind of like stays in like victim consciousness, or when I'm like really like in my gift energy, it can loop on each other. And so just to give you guys a very practical like idea of this, my life's work is Gene Key 54, Capricorn energy, and the gift is aspiration. And so it's really about teaching myself and others like how to ascend both spiritually and materially, right? And it's so fitting because so many of us on the spiritual path either A, have money wounds where we feel like, well, should I actually charge a lot for my gifts? Or like if I'm doing spiritual work, like, there can be a lot of wounds around actually like making money and also becoming very abundant and prosperous. But through this teaching, it teaches us that you actually can't ascend. You can only get so far spiritually until you're also ascending materially. And so if you're completely denying this aspect of yourself of like abundance and prosperity, you're stunting your own spiritual growth. And so once you kind of learn like how to like work with both of them and be like excited and like good with like ascending both, that is when you'll kind of like unlock the most abundance and prosperity for yourself. And so that's what I'm here to teach people. And then I have my evolution, which is the biggest soul lesson that I'm here to kind of experience. And the shadow of that is immaturity. And so what this can look like is, oh, and also the shadow of my life's work is greed. And it can show up as like being a victim of drive or like having a lack of drive. And then, so like the opposing one, or like the one that's either going to like help me or kind of like knock me back down to earth, is immaturity. So this can look like starting things too quick, right? Like being a victim of drive would be like, oh my God, like I just want to like succeed in my business so bad. And so like, I'm just going to like create an offer and like throw it out there immaturely, like prematurely, just maybe throw something out there because I feel like I'm a victim of like needing to be further along than I am. And that's kind of what happened to me in like the first 3 years of my business is like I was just like trying so hard to follow like really traditional business advice and like, like working with people that maybe weren't super spiritual and like trying to just follow these like business trends, and then it just wasn't working. Like I wasn't attracting my people, I wasn't making money because I wasn't really doing it in a way that really aligned to my soul. But then once I stepped into this like gift energy of like aspiration and then also mixing it with like superabundance, which is like the city of this one, I'm able to like learn how to kind of come from a place of like embodied work and really put things out there that I'm really excited about, and like I'm taking time and I'm figuring out what I actually want to do instead of coming from a place of like do and like trying too hard. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's super important for everyone to hear is like you have these pairs naturally in your chart, in your astrology chart, but then you also have it in your Gene Key profile because it's all based on the same thing, your birth date, time, location. And so knowing those two, if you start anywhere, if you just learn those two, can unlock so much for you. I mean, looking at my own, like with the Scorpio 4323 as my programming partner for my life's work, and it's like, oh, it's a lot. So it's fun to know and to look at and then to absorb even more of. And so I love that definition. And if you're listening to Ellisa and you're like, oh my gosh, like that sounds like me. It's like, well, we have it all, right? Mm-hmm. Like in our charts, we have access to this energy all the time. Might not be your programming partner or your life's work, but every year you're going to have the sun hitting those gates at some time. And so, or any planets really can hit those gates at some time. So it's really important to be open to like what resonates and like, what are you feeling? I sometimes like to use the Gene Key book as like an oracle.
Yes. Yeah, like a divination tool. Like
just like flip it open, like which Gene Key is here for me today? And I'm like, oh, I was like, wow, it's been a while. I need to do that.
So I'm curious because Nicole and I talk a lot about Saturn being like our biggest lesson in this life. When we're looking at though, because Saturn is here to like teach us lessons, right? It's a really important lesson for us. But when we're looking at evolution, it's almost like there's a little bit of a different flavor and opportunity of lesson here for us to learn on this soul level. And we don't talk about, so where it kind of feeds into human design is like we have our sun energy, which is our sun sign. Well, directly opposite of the sun sign in our astrology chart, as you said, it's that very opposite sign. So for me, it would be Leo. Leo is opposite Aquarius in the zodiac wheel. Well, that's our Earth sign, which is cool because like it's our Earth planetary placement that human design looks at, and then is what is translated into the evolution in gene keys. And so it's interesting because I think another way of thinking about it, at least from like a human design perspective, is I've always thought like, okay, we have our sun energy, it's our life's work. Well, what grounds that energy, what brings it into life form is that Earth planetary placement and sign. So for me, it's that Leo energy, right? But because they're directly opposing each other, which we kind of talk about this like opposition, it's like this like seesawing energy, like where you're here to find balance. And so from that sense, we're saying that like these 2 points in our gene keys, our life's work and our evolution, it's like finding that balance and that ability to balance, like maybe perhaps that is our soul's lesson of like when we can bring that life's work and this evolution and balance these two pieces. It might be really comfortable for us to be in our sun's energy but directly opposite. Like maybe that's why it's that soul lesson, because there is an ask for us to balance in this life.
Oh my God, literally, I love that. I just, yeah, when you were saying that, I was like, yes, because that's really is what it's like. It's like we're like shining in our sun, and then like, boom, we're kind of like get whiplash back down to earth with the earth sign, like the conscious earth. And it's like, we have to learn how to like work with both of them. Like, yeah, I love what you said of like a seesaw of just like, yeah, like learning how to balance both of them. Because when we do, then we can kind of like loop on the gifts of them. The other cool thing I wanted to touch on too is that like, what's so cool about the gene keys is like the shadows aren't bad, right? Like it's like our shadows are just teaching us where we are like a little bit out of alignment or just like experiencing, yeah, kind of more fear, right? It's showing us where we're kind of like in fear in our life. And then through patience, understanding, and gentleness, we learn how to accept them and have awareness of them instead of like repressing them or being reactive, which is kind of the two ways that these shadows can express itself. And so it's like very freeing to be like, oh wow, like this is a part of me and it's not bad. It's just a part of who I am. And when I accept that, it kind of like opens up this like beautiful like blossoming of love into like the gift frequency. And it's very practical because once you have this awareness, you're going to start to notice in your everyday life where like you're kind of being triggered by friends, family, the people that are closest to us. And instead of doing that initial like reactive energy, like our automatic like co-pilot or the autopilot reactions where we just like want to react to people, instead we have this like moment where we're like, oh my God, I know what this is. And then we can pause. It talks a lot about like pausing and pivoting and like making a different choice, using a different tone of voice, seeing it from the other person's perspective. And then that's how we literally heal ourselves and our relationships because we start showing up in a different way. And then that's automatically going to have the other person responding to us differently. So it's very cool and like practical to know that like we can just accept all sides of ourselves and like and also, every time we do that and we respond in a different way, we're literally upgrading our DNA because it's part of our DNA. A huge part of the gene keys as well is like epigenetics. And so it's like every time that we can kind of like heal a core part of our shadow, we're literally changing ourselves on the inside, which is really cool.
Wow. Frequency upgrades all around with the gene keys. I absolutely love that. And it's so true because you're right. Like, we can be so addicted to that autopilot response. And then once we start to accept, like, you know what? Hey, that version of me would have responded this way and I can understand why, but I'm going to make a new choice today. It's like little breadcrumbs to lead us down the new path. And then it becomes so natural. And so I love that it supports that kind of evolution because, like, we can make better choices every single day and how we show up in the world. We can't change other people, but like you just said so brilliantly, we can change the way we respond, and then that will hopefully change the way that others are responding to us as well.
Yeah,
So good.
I love that you said that too, because that's so the first pathway is like the pathway to enlightenment through the self, which is unlocking your four prime gifts. And then the second pathway is called the Venus sequence, which is all about love and relationships and learning how to drop our defenses and open our hearts to love. So it's a lot of like inner child healing, inner teenage healing, understanding what our core mental, emotional, and spiritual wounds are and how to alchemize those into our gifts. And what's so fascinating is there's this phenomenon called the Eden loop. And so when you're in relationship with someone else, especially if you think about like romantic partners, we just automatically just how humans are is like we're triggering each other's emotional and mental like patterns all of the time. And so it's kind of like we're looping on it, but it only takes one person to completely break the cycle. And so if I have this awareness now of like, oh, okay, like this is how I get triggered like mentally, and I know when I'm in this expression, like my boyfriend George, I'm gonna like automatically trigger like his emotional trigger, and then we're kind of like just, whatever, not in a great mood. But if I can see what's going on and like respond differently, it literally breaks the cycle. And now he's responding different to me, and it's like creating harmony. And so sometimes this also happens when we're on the spiritual path that we're like, we have this like, I don't know if this ever happened to you guys, but when I started like getting into spirituality, I was like, wait, does this mean I need to like break up with my boyfriend and like find a very like awoke, like spiritual man, Because my boyfriend isn't super into like spirituality, even though we have very like similar values. But there's this thing that happens where we're like, well, I'm like growing so much and evolving, like am I like leaving everyone behind? But actually no. Like it only takes that one person to start responding differently, and then that in turn just literally starts changing the other person, which is really cool.
I love that so much. And I just think I'm like looking at my gene keys right now and I have it pulled up. And so I'm thinking for people who have their gene keys in front of them right now, it's
Mhm.
like there's these little tabs on that website of like you've got your genius sequence, you've got your love path, and then your prosperity. And so far, like we went into the genius, which just to reflect a little bit more on that. So you're saying like when we're looking at those four key parts of ourselves, which really make up, for those of you who know human design, it's like your conscious sun and earth and your unconscious sun and earth. And so it is like full blown astrology wise, like really giving emphasis to that 70% of like our, sun energy that we know about in astrology. But like all of that then leads into, you said, the Venus
Mhm.
pathway, like the love pathway. And so what is it like, what are we meant to, one, take away from the genius sequence? Like what's that kind of core takeaway that when we work through this genius sequence within ourselves and we kind of contemplate our gene keys, what is it that we're taking out?
What we can really take away from this is like this is the pathway to enlightenment through the self. So it's really learning like us. Like it's learning like what are our four prime gifts, right? Life's work, biggest core lesson we're here to learn, our radiance, what keeps us healthy and like vital and like um yeah, just like radiant. And then also our purpose is the fourth one. And so once we kind of master that, that's where we have this like really great understanding of like who we are. And like now we're like open, we're ready to like go into relationship and learn how to really like keep our hearts like open and like drop our defenses and kind of now start traversing the Venus sequence. And it doesn't mean that like you have to be single to do this or like there actually has to be a specific order, but it's kind of like a hologenetic like image that does kind of like unlock on itself. But technically, this is also kind of happening in the quantum. And so it's like we could be contemplating all of them at the same time. It's a little like kind of hard to explain for the mind. But yeah, yeah. So it would be like pathway to enlightenment through the self, and then the pathway to enlightenment through love and relationships with the Venus sequence. And then the pearl is unlocking prosperity and abundance through service.
Alyssa, you were saying hologenetic and like you were using your hands. So if you're not
Hmm.
watching this on YouTube, it's kind of like multi-dimensional, right? This cube that is
Hmm.
all kind of connecting in this really cool way in the quantum and the 3D and all the other realms. And that's
Hmm.
why like it's, I don't want to call it a Rubik's cube because that makes it kind of like brings it down a bit. But if you're thinking of like a Rubik's cube shape and all the different combinations you could do to get to the same thing, that's like essentially what you're describing, right?
Yes, yes. And the
Wow.
pearl really is in the very middle, which is kind of like the treasure that we unlock after like going through this like hero's journey. But again, it really is like it doesn't have to be linear. It doesn't have to be like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm gonna take 5 weeks in between the like life's work to evolution and then 6 months from here to there. Like it's like we really can kind of contemplate them all at the same time and different times. And like as you just start to learn these things about yourself, these shadows and gifts, you're just going to start to see how they start showing up in everyday life, which is so cool.
So in the love
Hmm.
sequence, isn't that, I'm thinking about like the planets that get included, and maybe you guys don't focus on that in Gene Keys, but like, isn't it like the Venus and the Mars or something like that that get pulled into the love or Venus pathway?
Yes, let me, um, yes.
Which is so interesting because Nicole and I have done, we were thinking love here, right? But Nicole and I did a whole episode all about love. And we focus on like Venus and Mars in very different ways, but like they are these planets that there's a lot of passion with these planets, but also just a lot of like there's so much relational energy with these planets. And so I can see how like um those parts of us are part of this exploration with this like Venus sequence and this pathway, to understanding relationships or to understanding ourselves through relationships and through love.
Yes, yes. And I was like, wait, let me pull it up so I can be absolutely sure of like the planets. But yes, so it's actually going to be, so the attraction sphere is actually your unconscious moon, and then your IQ is conscious Venus, EQ is conscious Mars, and then we have the SQ is going to be unconscious Venus, and then the core wound is unconscious Mars. So that's kind of, yeah. So very, yeah, exactly what you said, but also throw in the moon.
Yeah. And then for those of you who are listening and are like, wait, what do you mean conscious and unconscious? So all of the conscious placements that Ellisa just described, that's a lot of what you're seeing. Like when she says conscious moon and conscious Venus and conscious Mars, like that's directly related to what you're seeing in your astrology chart. The unconscious is actually based on what, like, is it 90, 80? 88 days before your date of birth, where like the unconscious part of you, the design of you is what is created, and that's what your human design reflects, is both this conscious side of you, which directly relates to your astrology chart, as well as the unconscious side of you. So Gene Keys then pulls in both these unconscious and conscious, so it takes you a whole layer deeper than astrology. It's why I love all this stuff.
Not me like tracking the possible dates for like the baby's unconscious design date. I'm like, she already probably had it, and that's like kind of crazy. And also I have to tell you, so when you were talking about the genius sequence, I was laughing because when I first looked up my Gene Keys, I was like, oh, so I'm a genius. And then I realized everyone had that, and
You've
I was
got the
like,
genius pathway, Nicole.
I literally thought it was unique to me, and then it was like, no, by the way, you're deafness. And I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
That's so funny.
I know. I was like, oh, I'm so special. But it's like, no, everyone has the genius sequence and the pearl and the Venus, which is super, super fun and cool. Ellisa, I have a quick question for you about, like, if someone were to want to start with the Venus sequence, could they? Like you said, you can contemplate all of this at any time. So, like, this is, and I love that word contemplation. I know that's, like, Richard Rudd's thing. Can you tell us, like, one, like, if you were to start anywhere, where would you start? Like, just based on where you're at. And then two, talk a little bit about contemplation as a whole and how you bring that into your own work.
Oh, I love that. Okay. So personally, so if you go off of, like straight up Gene Keys, you know how human design has like human design people, which are like very like strict to how they want to do it. Gene Keys is a little bit similar, but it's kind of like the way they would recommend it would probably be to go in order of like your genius sequence, love and relationships, and Pearl, which is business. For me, and from working with clients, I always say like start with where you are right now in life, right? Like if I am like just going through a breakup, or if I'm having like a really hard time in my relationship or my marriage, but it's like, oh, you need to first understand your life's work. I'm not going to get anything out of it. I feel like if I'm like consumed by this like relationship thing. And so I really feel like it's using your own intuition and really feeling like where are you called to do it? It's a very spiritual like work. And so kind of more tuning into the heart and really feeling like, where do I feel really called to like go to right now? And like there's no wrong answer. It's literally like whatever feels really good for you. That's what I would recommend starting there.
That's great. I kind of feel the same way about astrology. Like if you look at something in your chart, obviously you can look at your big three, you can learn all of the major things about your chart. But if you're like drawn to a specific symbol or a specific house or a specific sign, and you're just like, this feels like what I need to know right now, like go for it, dive into it. You know, why not?
Yes, and I feel like it's so funny because we always like just get what we need. Like in my one-to-one portal of you, I actually go through all of the sequences with my clients, but it's so funny because I notice a trend that oftentimes it's like relationship stuff is like the most like on the forefront, so we'll focus a lot on that, which is I think perfect. I think it's like, yeah, whatever you feel really called to, you can learn so much from it. Like you don't have to go in order, in my personal opinion. And what I love about contemplation is, so contemplation is really like the middle path between concentration and meditation. So meditation, there's all different types of meditation, but essentially we kind of try to like not hold on to a thought or not hold on to a story. Just kind of like maybe we're concentrating on our breath or just, kind of letting things go. And then concentration, there's a lot of like Zen practices or like mantras that people do to really like concentrate on a very specific thing or like, maybe, yeah, like sing a mantra over and over again. You're kind of like going through this pathway like that. Or also concentration can be like sitting down and being like, okay, I'm gonna study at like 2 o'clock on a Tuesday. I'm gonna sit down and like study my human design for like 2 hours or something. That's very like concentrated. Where contemplation is so beautiful because it happens in your everyday life. So I could be like doing the dishes or like driving, and then like maybe I have this thought come into my mind, or like maybe I'm triggered by something. And since I just was like learning about my life's work, or like contemplating that, maybe I have this like memory that came up, and now I'm kind of just like allowing my mind to like go there and like think about it, and it's very like gentle, and I kind of can spend as much time there as I want, and then I can just move on, right? So it kind of happens in our everyday life. And then something that I love to do as well, like in my work with my clients and myself, is I love to incorporate like modalities and practices that I use to actually like use the gene keys. So for example, I'll create like hypnosises around like a very specific gene key, or for one of my clients, she was really struggling. She has gene key 4, like so many times in her chart, which is so cool. It's like it's the most I've ever seen of someone having like the same one just repeated. So it's like a huge theme in her life. And so I created a really cool meditation to like go to this like underworld and like explore the shadow of Gene Key 4, and then come up and like go to like this present day world and experience the gift, and then go to this like higher realm and experience the city of it. And like just using really creative ways to like tap into this energy. You could also do like tapping. I love doing like EFT tapping on like the gifts, or like say if I'm about to maybe if you have like some anxiety and you're about to like speak live or do something, you can like tap on your gifts, and just like really bring in that frequency. So there's so many cool ways that yeah, you can just like use contemplation to work with these.
Wow, that's so cool. And you brought like so many aspects of like other spiritual practices and things that have really worked for you into using the gene keys, which I think is so special, because that's like what it's all about. We don't have to follow this rigid set of rules. It's about making these things accessible, and so that you can actually use them and live them and, reach your highest potential by exploring them. So thank you for sharing that. It's so cool.
hmm And the other thing I'll say too is that I feel like Richard Rudd did such a great job of like creating these like themes of life, because that also is contemplation. Like, I mean, we could sit there and be like, okay, what is life? And then it's like, well, our mind could go so many different places, and like it might not feel that good, or it might feel really good. I don't know. But if you're like, okay, I want to contemplate like my like vocation, right? Like what is the core talent that I'm here to bring to the world? So I have a very kind of like guided energy. Like I'm guiding my energy to this very specific theme of life, and now I'm kind of contemplating like what my shadow is and my gift. And so I think it's just such a cool way to like learn about ourselves and like know ourselves better in a very guided way, where sometimes we're just kind of like, who am I? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and so if somebody is wanting to explore one of these pathways, we talked about like the path to enlightenment, the genius sequence. We talked about like the love, the Venus sequence, and then you briefly have talked about like the prosperity, or I don't know the other name for it. What is it? Prosperity pearl sequence. And
Mhm.
you've talked about how that could be something like if somebody is more business focused and really wanting to focus on business, right? Like perhaps we have one where it's more like purpose driven life's work. Maybe that's like genius. Then we've got like relationships. But if somebody's wanting to explore business, what can they really take away from the pearl sequence? And then I think that that's like what we talk about, like Jupiter, but it's also the sun energy too. It like comes back around to like your sun energy, almost like how your life's work can be brought into business in that sense. Is that right?
Yes. I love this question so much because this is my personal favorite contemplation is the pearl. And I'm just pulling up my little thing because I want to tell you like the exact planets because I know it'll be fun for like astrology people. Okay. So what I love about the pearl is This, you guys, if you are a business owner, whether you are just beginning or whether you're like very seasoned and you're just looking for more ways to like be more yourself in business, the Pearl sequence is going to unlock so much for you. Like it gets so specific. So first off, it starts off with the vocation. And so your vocation was actually the same sphere as your biggest core wound. And through the Gene Keys teachings, it teaches us that like our biggest core wound that we've experienced, and we know every single flavor of it. For me, I have Gene Key 48, inadequacy. So I know every flavor of inadequacy, especially on the like spiritual entrepreneurial journey. And I'm here to alchemize that and bring that gift as my biggest core talent to my people. And so for me, that's the gift of resourcefulness. And so it makes so much sense that I'm teaching people their soul codes and how to come back to themselves and like find that they have all of the answers within themselves, and you can create a life and a business that feels like so juicy and for you. So whatever your biggest core wound is, that is your gift that you bring to the world, which is really beautiful because it means that like you're the most equipped, like regardless of certifications, like I love trainings and certifications. Like I have so many. I think it's so important. And also we have this like innate something within us that just like needs to be brought to the world because we've experienced it so deeply, the shadows of that. And so once you learn what that is, then your soul is like, okay, I'm going to go on this pathway of initiation and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to bring my services to the world and like be prosperous and abundant from it. And it's called the pathway of initiation because it is so freaking hard, which like I know you guys can probably attest to too. So many things come up on the entrepreneurial journey, like mindset stuff and just like self-doubt and all literally everything. It's like the biggest personal growth journey we can go on. And so it's meant to be like that because it's like, okay, like are you actually going to keep going? This is like your soul's work. Like are you going to keep, moving forward even when your human mind is like, this is scary? So then we get to the culture sphere, and this really teaches us like all about how to unlock, like how to move out of poverty consciousness, which is being like in the victim of this shadow theme of your culture. Really teaches you how you are blocking abundance and money. And what's so cool is that like you're not really blocking money, you're just repelling your people because um like as I learned from my mentor who learned from Shaman Durek, every single dollar in our bank account comes from a person, right? Whether you're in corporate or you work for yourself, every single dollar comes from a person. And so if you are blocking abundance, you're just literally repelling your people from finding you and working with you. So then we learn how to shift into the gift of that frequency. And then that literally creates this like magnetic sphere around you where you literally start pulling in people, opportunities, and like your very specific fractal line of people that are here to learn from you. So like you literally become a magnet, and then money is just a byproduct. Like your bank account is just going to go up because you're being of service in like your specific way. And then what's really cool as well is like every single line keynote in the Gene Keys has a different meaning. So like 1 through 6 culture, like a 6 line culture is going to be very different from like a line 6 life's work. But what's so cool about the culture line keynotes is that it teaches you like what size of group your soul is so like here to serve and have impact on. And it's not supposed to put you in a box or limit you or make you feel like you can't do this other thing, but it really is like an experiment to see like, oh my God, if I was actually to start creating offers like in this size, maybe that would actually feel so good. And then energetically you just like start opening up yourself more to like more abundance and prosperity.
Can
Do
we
you guys
go
have any
in?
questions
Can
before
we
I
go
keep
into
going?
that? Like, if
Yeah.
are you able, like, if somebody's looking at their culture right now, for example, mine says 7.1, but like you
Mm-hmm.
said, there's 6. So, like, if
Mm-hmm.
somebody's looking at that number, is there like just like one little quick description you could give of like, here's like, your kind of audience or who you're here to serve or something?
Yes, 100%. And this is my favorite like thing to look at. So line ones are individuals. Okay, so I'm a line one. Line one individuals are like they're meant to go first. Like they're very bold. They're here to serve at an individual level. So that can look like, you know, entrepreneur, solo entrepreneur. It can even be like you can serve in any type of group as a line one. Like you can do one-to-one work, you can do like masterminds, but it's as long as your people feel like they're getting individual attention, right? Like it needs to feel like some sort of like they're learning at an individual level, if that makes sense. A line two is a partnership. And so this is people who do really, really great in one-to-one work. They do really well with like having a biz bestie or like um, being on a podcast with like a pod co-host, right? Some sort of way where they have this like deep, intimate connection with one other person is going to feel so freaking fulfilling for them. And then a line three is the unit. And so they do really, really well in groups of like 3 to 15. I want to say it's 15. So this can be like small groups. This can be like little mini masterminds. Um, they can also for sure do one-to-one work. Again, this isn't to limit anyone, but I would play around with this, guys, if you're a line three, and like you might feel a lot of relief from dropping like one-to-one clients because there's just something that happens with this like dynamism, like in a group, and like the diversity of like ideas and exchanges of people that like brings this aliveness to you. So I would, yeah, really recommend like playing with that. And then we have line fours, networks. So line fours are networks. And so you're going to do, you can again do any size group. You can do one-to-one, you can like do group work. But what's going to feel really good for you is getting into other people's audiences. So doing like podcast swaps, maybe being like a guest in someone's like program, right? Like a guest speaker. Really just like showing yourself to other people's audiences and just doing a lot of like networking and yeah, they can even be like in person, like going to networking events. That feels really good for you. And then line fives are the society. So I like to say that these ones are like the Tony Robbins, like the like really big names like Oprah, like maybe not necessarily Oprah, but like you really want to be like on big stages, right? Like you want to impact a lot of people. You're going to be impacting like strangers. So for you, it wouldn't feel so good to have this like one-to-one like connection, right? Like it might feel like you're like weighing yourself down. You might not like that like kind of personalized thing. It's more of like you speak one to many, and that feels really, really good for you. So you can do like courses, you could do like really big like community memberships, and then even just like really like getting into your highest potential and doing like speaking gigs. Um yeah, okay, also before I move on to line six, sometimes when I tell my clients this, every time it gives them a lot of relief, but then also as soon as it gives you relief, sometimes it gives you a little bit of like imposter syndrome, like, wait, I'm a line five, like I'm supposed to change at a societal level. Like you're telling me that I'm supposed to like speak to like thousands and thousands of people. And like that's where you can start to see where your conditioning lies, like where your blocks are at. And then that's kind of like where the real work gets into, so they can like, lean into your highest potential.
Nicole, you're a line five, right?
Yeah, well, in the culture sphere, I am.
Yeah.
Oh
So
yeah.
I'm like sitting here going like, what?
Yeah.
And you're like, this is so relieving to some people, but it's also scary. And I'm like, hi, yes, me, it's me. I'm like on a stage. I could totally be on a stage, but I'm like, now? Okay. So you're right. This is very interesting.
Yes, yes. And even don't get so much hung up either on like the practicality. So even if like you say you didn't want to be on stages or do in person, it's like your podcast, YouTube, just somehow that you can reach a lot of people. It's like you're meant to be a very like, yeah, like public figure, kind of changing like people in that way, which is, yeah, really freaking powerful. And then line sixes are systems. And so again, these people can really do anything. Line six is always like a little hard to describe, but they're really here to change like the system of something. So say someone is like in education, like they're here to like change education like at a systematic level. And so it's really just like, yeah, kind of playing what that means to you, but it also is like a very big like high vision. They're like line sixes are also very like visionaries and like looking beyond. And so they're trying to see like how can we actually change things? Like they're not gonna do the same, they're not gonna just keep repeating the same like things that other people have already been doing for so long. They're like here to change things at a system level, which is so cool.
So helpful and so neat to hear. I feel like anyone can really like, I feel like line six and line one, like you kind of see the contrast, like you can really, obviously that's the point of it, but you can see a line six person like a mile away, and then like the line one people like Keelie. I mean, like you're transforming lives like one-on-one in so many different ways, like through your work. It's beautiful to see, but then also too, like it doesn't mean you can't transform on a larger scale. It's just like you have that gift both ways. But yeah, I'm gonna have to talk to Ellisa about this line five thing, because I'm like, Girl, I have no
This
idea.
is when the prosperity, this is like the juiciest one for me. I love this so much. It's so fun. And just to kind of wrap it up, because you were like, we started with the vocation, which is so cool. But ultimately you said this is all about just like your way, your pathway to service in this world.
Yes, exactly. And you'll learn your brand, which is like the same sphere as the life's work is, so it's like your conscious sun. It is your brand. So in the Gene Keys, it teaches us that like we are our personal brand, which is so freeing because sometimes we get so caught off guard of like, how do I show up? Like what parts of myself do I show as a business owner? What parts of my personal life do I show? How do I show up? What parts of my personality do I want to be professional? Like whatever. And so the line keynotes for the brand really teach us like your brand archetypes, like how to show up online, and then it teaches you your very specific truth that you're here to bring to the world. And so anytime that we're in the shadow, we're kind of like looking at what like everyone else is doing, and we're like the shiny object syndrome of like, oh my God, she's talking about that, so like maybe I should also incorporate that. And that's when we completely water down our messaging, and like we're not attuning to the frequency of our fractal line. So they again can't see us, they can't hear us, they don't know that we're out there. But the more authentically ourselves we can be and just like go all in on this very specific truth, that is like the puzzle piece of like the healing that we're here to bring to the world, is like that truth. And then we arrive at the pearl, and the pearl is like how your soul wants to experience money and abundance and prosperity. And that is also so freeing because sometimes again spiritually we feel like, should I be like denying myself of like material things? And no, our soul actually really wants to experience money and abundance and wealth for so many reasons. And it's very, very good for good people like us to make a lot of money because we change the world. And some of us have very simple reasons for wanting to have money. Like our soul, I'm a line one, simplicity. So like my soul just literally wants to be able to like do what I love doing, share my life's work, like love like my house and like the food that I'm eating, and just like live a beautiful, simple life. Some people are charity, where like they literally want to make a shitload of money so that they can like give back to the world. And then some people, it's like power, like they want to change things at a system level, and like yeah, just like whether that's like voting with their dollar of like the companies they want to support, or making a shitload of money to like get into Congress and like change things at like that level, right? And so it's so freeing because then we learn that like we don't have to have success look like this one linear path. We can literally just make the exact amount of money that our soul wants to make and love it.
So that pearl sequence is ultimately like how we are of service with the money that we make, like with what we do with it out in this world. It's so cool. I love this so much.
It is. And it's like also too, when you said like, so maybe you want to make a ton of money so that you can like be in Congress. And it's like, it's a reminder for us not to judge why other people do what they do, because like my meaning in life could be so different for how I'm, being of service for money than someone else's. Because I was like, oh God, like why would I want to do that? And then I'm like, oh no, wait, I can't judge other people for what they want to do. It's like my path is completely different. And so I think that really gives us like some solace to know, like we always talk about, well, I always say on these podcasts, like I think we choose our birth chart. And so when we choose our birth chart and we choose like these planets and these aspects and when we're going to come in, we're also choosing this gene key profile because it's all connected. And so it's like, that's some powerful stuff we can tap into.
Yeah, 100%. And sometimes also like a line two is celebration, or I think it's a line three, where they're here to experience money to literally celebrate life and like have life experiences, go on vacation, have new experiences with their friends and family. And so if that person is conditioned to think like, it's bad for me to spend money on fun and like I shouldn't be doing that, they're ultimately blocking their abundance and their prosperity. And so it's so freeing to just know like, oh, what is mine? Like how does my soul want to experience money? And the more that you lean into that and literally just have fun with it, the more and more like comes, because it's a self-fulfilling when we're being of service to the world, it's a self-fulfilling like prophecy, right? It's very different from business, where some business people are just here to like take, right? Take, and they don't have anything they want to give back. But like us being of service, we're giving our gifts to the collective and to the world. And so it makes sense that we're also meant to like receive a lot. So yeah, it's really beautiful.
Is line 5 the Congress one? Because that's mine.
Yeah. It's the power one.
That's so
yeah.
Yeah, you get a taste of that line 5 life. It's a different sphere.
You guys heard it here. This was so
Keelie
great.
for Congress.
This is so
Mhm.
great, Alyssa. So you talked about your containers that you have right now that you can really support people in if they're interested in learning more about their gene keys. Like, I feel like if you are listening to this and you were like, I'm so curious, like I want to learn more about one of these sequences, like what can they do? How can they reach out to you or get started working with you?
Yes. Oh my gosh, thank you. So I have three ways. So first of all, I do readings. So that's that's a very fun way to like just learn what the heck yours is. So I have readings for purpose, for love and relationships, and then the Pearl sequence. Those are all readings that you can book. I also have the Portal of You, which is my one-to-one now it's a 4 month container for my clients where we get to work together for 4 months and we go through every single sphere and we do it once a week. So it is a audio drop. We're together in Telegram, and then we also have calls twice a month where we can actually go in and do more like subconscious work to like reprogram any blocks that's coming up. And that's kind of a way to like work together a little bit deeper once like you're learning and having awareness of around what your gene keys are, but now maybe you're going to start to notice that like things come up in business and you would just like some more support. So that's where I get to work with my babes like very closely to, yeah, just like unlock everything for them in business. And then I also have the healing bubble, which is so juicy. This is my membership that I created, which is really like an energetic sanctuary for coaches, light workers, healers to really just work on our frequency every single day. And so I have Akashic guided meditations, I have hypnosises, I have EFT tapping, and it's really just like a self-service place. Like again, I'm a line one culture, so it's very like individual. So it's a place for you to just come in, tune in every single day and really get your energy right. And it's like super specific for coaches and spiritual entrepreneurs to just move through everything that comes up and like have your protective bubble on and like yeah, it's just really fun.
Yeah. I mean, if
Yes.
you heard Alyssa at the beginning say, this language just makes sense to me. And it's like, the language of some things makes sense to me like this, but not like it does to you. And I just have to say, like, you can go to genekeys.com, you can get the book, you can do these things, but the way that you translate this information, the way that you share it from your heart and soul is truly different. It's remarkable. And I think you're just really creating so many ripples in the world with this work. So thank you for sharing it with those astrology girls. And we know, whenever we need more Gene Keys info, we just go right to Alyssa because she is the master.
I know. I
Thank
felt
you.
so activated as you were talking. I was like, oh my gosh, I just want to learn more. So I'm sure anyone who's listening to this is like, okay, sign me up. Let's go.
Yeah, we'll include all the links in the show notes
Yes.
below and ways that you can connect with Alyssa, and we so appreciate it. Those astrology girls definitely weigh in on, social media. Let us know what you think about this, like how you're going to start using your own gene key profile, whether you're already into it and this was so illuminating. We want to hear from you. And again, Alyssa, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. We're so happy and we just love talking with you.
Thanks,
Thank you
Alyssa.
guys. Thank you guys.